Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Grant Mitchell and I'm here to deliver to you the latest and breaking Washington Commanders news. Not only talk about what is in the headlines, but to most importantly, ask for your opinion on it. Please, everything I say here, I'm going to give some commentary, but I really love reading your opinions and thoughts in the comments. So please, as we go through, feel free to pause the video, jump on down there, and let me know what you are thinking. We've gotten some feedback on the last few episodes. The subscribers are starting to pick up a little bit. I really appreciate it. To everybody who likes me, likes the content, is a Commanders fan, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to support me, hit the like button. Helps me get out in the algorithms. And today we are going to be talking about a few different headlines. We've got news involving Terry McLaurin. We've got news involving a Commanders former Pro Bowler who's making some headlines, and also a potential trade for a star edge rusher that you might have heard about. We're actually going to start in reverse order there. We're going to jump to that story because it has been out for a day or two and people have talked about it before. But this is, of course, none other than Trey Hendrickson. Now, this story comes from ESPN's Seth Walder, who proposed a trade that could figure out how to get Trey Hendrickson to the nation's capital and send a few pieces going back to Ohio, Cincinnati specifically. So here is his trade package. We are going to read what he wrote in this article, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. So his proposal is the Bengals get defensive tackle Jer'Zhan Newton, a third-round pick in next year's draft, and a seventh-round pick in the 2027 draft. The Commanders get Trey Hendrickson. Here's what he says. This is Seth Walder. Washington is in win-now mode, but Dorrance Armstrong is its best edge rusher. Adding Hendrickson, who recorded the second-best pass rush win rate at edge last season at 24%, would be a huge boost. Losing Newton would make an old defense older, but the Commanders have strong veteran options on the interior defensive line in Daron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, and Dietrich Wise Jr., who can move inside if needed. By including Newton in the deal, the Commanders can put together a feasible package without trading a second-round pick. They lost their 2026 second-round selection as part of the trade for offensive tackle Laremy Tunsil. Newton would be appealing to the Bengals as immediate help. So let me break this down. Trey Hendrickson is not quite gone scorched earth, but he has been very clear that he feels disrespected by the manner in which the Bengals have approached his contract situation, which is not surprising because the Bengals are one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest franchise out there. They still haven't, they did finally pay Jamar Chase, but it took them a while. Took them a while to pay T. Higgins. Joe Burrow, poor guy, he's not just playing quarterback and making up for the team not having a defense. He has to be the representative of the star players. Every chance he gets, he's in front of a microphone saying, hey, we got to get this deal taken care of. And I've said this before, I give immense credit to Joe Burrow because he is constantly on the record saying, hey, Trey Hendrickson, we got to pay him. We don't have a chance without him. And I will say this, it felt like if the Bengals didn't score 40 points last year, they were going to lose. And now if Hendrickson walks out the door, even if he doesn't, if he just refuses to show up like he has so far and like he promises to if he doesn't get a new deal, then they're losing their best player on a defense that was already pathetic. New defensive coordinator, sure. I still think you want Trey Hendrickson on the field. And if you don't, you want to get value back. So I can understand the Bengals wanting to trade him if they can't agree to a new contract. That brings us to the Washington side of things. Would you give up Johnny Newton, a second-year player, a third-round pick in the next draft, and a seventh-round pick in the draft after that? If you said a third round and a seventh round, take Newton out of it. If it was just the third and the seventh, I would do that deal. If it was just Newton and the seventh, my knee-jerk reaction would be no. You might be able to talk me into it. All three of these things together, absolutely not. Seth Walder. As Seth Walder pointed out here, this is an old defense the Commanders have. You look at some of the trades they made recently, Laremy Tunsil, Marshawn Lattimore, Deebo Samuel, good to great players, guys who are either right at the end of their prime or are exiting it and are in the next phases. Who were the best players on defense last year? If you're going to go up and down the list, Dante Fowler's not with the team anymore. Mike Sainer still was great. He's still there. Quan Martin had his moment, big playoff moment. He's there. But really, it was Bobby Wagner, who's past 35, I believe. Frankie Louvu, who had the best year of his career, is still in his prime, but it's not like his prime is ahead of him. You can go up and down the Jonathan Allen, who they traded, Daron Payne, who I said we are going to talk about, but also his prime's not ahead of him. He's at the end of his prime. There's not a lot of youth on this team. Sainer still, Trey Amos, all players we have a lot of hope for. They look like they have a lot of potential. Newton's that guy for the defensive line. At some point, you can't continue to mortgage your future to win right now, especially when you're not sure you're going to win right now. The Commanders still not even favored to win their own division. Now, Super Bowl champions are in their division, so that does complicate things, but it also doesn't change the fact that there's not an open path to the playoffs every year. There's not an open path to the conference championship. There's not an open path to the Super Bowl. All those things are attainable. They could all happen, but they are not guarantees. And most people would say, fairly, in my opinion, Washington significantly overperformed last year. And despite some trades and free agent signings and draft picks, I think they raised the floor. I don't know that they raised the ceiling to the point that it's likely they win a Super Bowl. Johnny Newton is a guy who's been injured for the last 2 years. So offseason, he hasn't really been able to hit the weights as much as he would. His play strength and some of his speed hasn't been there. Why don't we give this guy a chance to develop? If you look at the Eagles last year, obviously they had strength on the defensive front, but they had youth and they had depth. And there's more than one way to skin a cat in the NFL, but it is important that you have young players who are valuable contributors and are cheap. And although Johnny Newton wasn't amazing as a rookie last year, he spent the entire offseason injured. I'm willing to trust this guy to improve in his first full summer in an NFL weight training program, getting more snaps now that Jonathan Allen's out of the picture. I'm willing to trust his development and this coaching staff. So just to reiterate my point here, a third and a seventh, I'm on board. Newton in the seventh, maybe. This package, absolutely not. Trey Hendrickson is awesome. Back-to-back seasons with 17.5 sacks. He's also on the other side of 30. You can't keep mortgaging your future. At some point, the bill is going to come due, and it's going to be ugly. And if you can hold on to these young players you have, it's not like you're trying to go out and acquire one. You have them on the team. I think you got to keep him there. So that's my opinion on that. What do you know? Like I said, or what do you know? What do you think? Please jump down to the comments. Let me know. Would you make that trade? And if not, is there a way you would try to rework it? Moving on over to our next topic, which is going to be Terry McLaurin. Now, this is a report from Jordan Schultz, who is an NFL insider. He says, sources, Commanders All-Pro wide receiver Terry McLaurin has made it clear to the team that he is frustrated with the lack of progress on a new long-term deal. As I previously reported, McLaurin unexpectedly left, and I just lost my place. He unexpectedly left voluntary workouts after initially attending, and it remains to be seen whether he will report for mandatory minicamp. And then he quoted his own tweet here. He says, off-season programs are critical for young quarterbacks, and as Jaden Daniels looks to build on a strong rookie season, it's surprising the team hasn't prioritized a new deal for Terry McLaurin, especially after the All-Pro receiver's career year. So I've had this conversation with a couple of people, and I want to be very upfront. I said before the start of last season, the Commanders should have really considered trading Terry McLaurin. I was absolutely wrong. I was so wrong about that. It couldn't be more wrong. I'm saying that up front because I want everyone to know where I stand. My opinion was, and I still feel kind of this way, I'll just tell you where I'm at right now. Terry's going to be 30 this season, coming off the best year of his career. He's at the point in his career in which most receivers start to decline a little bit. Not that he's going to fall off a cliff, but if you're asking me, what is the chance, or what are the chances he has a better year next year than he did last year, I would say less than 50%. I think that's the best year of his career. We know what that looks like. Signing him up for a new deal, let's say at least 3 years, 4, 5, that's going to put him under contract until 33, 34, 35. You're giving a lot of money to a receiver who, as good as he is, he might be the best deep ball tracker in the NFL, incredible locker room guy, one of your only real veterans as far as guys who have been on this Commanders team for a long time. As valuable as all of that makes him, is he definitively, without a shred of doubt, a top 10 receiver in the NFL. He's definitively top 15. Is he top 10? Is he top 7? Is he top 5? I don't know what Terry's asking here. I think there's no chance in you-know-what that he's not asking for a top 10 contract. So, we're in the Super Bowl window. That means you got to pay guys. You got to be willing to take risks. I get all of that. But you did also trade for Laramie Tunsil, who's not at OTAs. Does he want a contract renegotiation? Marshawn Lattimore's not there. What's the deal with that? He being traded, cut, signed to a new contract? What is it? Deebo Samuel's on a big deal. I think this is the final year of that. So if he enjoys his time there and the Commanders enjoy his time, he's going to get a new deal, right? It's a lot of money to be paying to older players who, again, are unlikely to get better in the future. I don't know what Terry's value is on the open market right now. If you can get a first-round pick for him, you have to make the deal. If you can get a second, I think you have to consider it. Now, it's 100% playing with fire because as far as a guy who's probably the most well-liked guy in the locker room, critical for Jaden Daniels' development, everything points to Terry. Coming off the fantastic year, franchise record-setting year for touchdowns in a season with 13 of them. I think he caught a touchdown in every playoff game. You can't replace what Terry means to the team. But if there's a way to replace his production, this is just a pure hypothetical there. But do you remember when the Eagles made that trade for A.J. Brown and it really elevated their offense? I don't know that there's an A.J. Brown available out there on the market right now, but if you could go to a team that's not in contention mode right now, if you traded Terry for a second, and then before the offseason was over, you also traded for Drake London or Chris Olave, something like that, it would hurt because we all have such a strong emotional connection to Terry, and he does mean so much to that locker room. But you're probably getting the same production for a guy who's on a cheaper or somewhat even deal, and he'll be around for 5, 6, 7 years versus a guy that you're expecting to decline, if not next year, the year after that. If you're asking me what I believe is going to happen, I believe this deal is going to get done. And if it does, I will absolutely be on board with it. Terry is so influential to the offense. He's a great player. He will produce at a high level. Great culture presence, great locker room presence, all of these things. I do not want Terry McLaurin gone, and I know that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn value his contributions. They had him come up with some of the standards of the team back when Dan Quinn first got hired, and they wrote all those principles out, and they said, we're going to hold ourselves to these standards. He means so much to the organization, to the fan base. I will be thrilled if the deal gets done, but I don't know that it's an open and shut case, and that's all I'm saying here. Let's go on over to our last story, which is coming directly from the practice field itself, and it's about a former Pro Bowler who apparently is really starting to separate himself as far as everybody else at OTAs. That is Daron Payne, the defensive tackle who had the 1 year, and I want to pull this up because I want to get all of the exact numbers correct. He had the year where from the interior he had 11.5 sacks, gets the contract, and the 2 years since then, 4 sacks, 4 sacks. Now, here's the great thing about Daron Payne. He has been available for every game except for one in his NFL career. 16 games back when it was a 16-game schedule, 15 the next year, 16. Then there's the change, and he goes 17, 17, 17, 17. So at 28 years old, he's an Ironman, still in his career, and we know that he does have the potential in him to hit that elite level. He has it on his resume. If you listen to some of the comments that were made by Joe Witt Jr., the defensive coordinator, and Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. actually said he got in trouble with Dan Quinn because he challenged his defense so hard, and Daron Payne responded to such a great extent that it actually caused some trouble for the offense. And then Quinn said, hey, we got to ease it up. We're in phase 3. This is the offseason. That's too aggressive. And Joe Witt Jr. had to raise his hand and say, hey, that's my fault. But both Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn in their media availability on Wednesday made it a point to say that Daron Payne is standing out. And when I think back to the conversation about Johnny Newton, I think that's a great example to have next to him. Also, it's something that had to happen for Daron Payne because Jonathan Allen was the elder statesman there. Now that he's gone, and Payne, who was at Alabama like Jonathan Allen, longtime teammates, but now that he is the guy there, he's the guy who's at the center of that culture and setting the tone, it's a great thing to see him respond. Because Washington last year, we don't have to relitigate this, but they couldn't stop the run. They didn't generate a ton of pressure, at least from the actual defensive linemen. Sometimes you had Fowler flying off the edge. Sometimes you had Louvu and Wagner and these guys, but you need to see a better year from Daron Payne with the money that he's getting paid. And it sounds like he's accepted the challenge. And if the Commanders can get to an average run defense, Sanders still looks like a really good player. Trey almost is turning heads, has a lot of potential. And if Marshawn Lattimore stays healthy, you've got to imagine that's at least an average pass defense, if not above that. So if you're telling me the Commanders are going to be 15th or better against the pass, 15th or better against the run, and JD5 is on the other side of the ball, that is the recipe to getting back to the conference championship game, potentially even one game further than that. We're a long way away from the season. The talk is cheap right now. They could just be trying to build him up. They could be telling the truth. And even if they are telling the truth, it could mean nothing by September. All of that is true. But it is a good thing that this is happening. It's a sign that Daron Payne is accepting the challenge. And I, for one, am here for a Daron Payne career year. So that's it for today's video, guys. We talked about three things there: the Trey Hendrickson trade possibility, Terry McLaurin contract, and Daron Payne being the standout of OTAs. What do you think about all this news? Please get down in the comments section. I'll be responding to everybody. To you guys who are watching this video and have not hit that subscribe button, please smash that. You will be locked into all of the future news. Hit the like button if you did enjoy this as well. And I will catch you all for the next bit of Commanders news. Have a great day.